Representative Sarah McBride just asked Secretary of Energy Chris Wright a simple question. Have you or anyone in your department been able to find any wind turbines in China? Wright said they haven't looked. McBride pointed out that President Trump at the World Economic Forum claimed China doesn't use wind turbines and called the countries that buy them stupid. But the president apparently explored all 3.6 million square miles of China to make that declaration.
Well, it seems like the president apparently has explored all 3.6 million square miles of China and apparently declared at Davos that China isn't using any wind turbines. As I mentioned, the president said that stupid people buy them.
Wright said he doesn't love or hate any technology. It is just about the math. McBride asked if that includes wind. Wright said its contribution to date has not been so good, but there may be areas where it makes sense.
Its contribution to date so far has not been so good, but are there going to be areas or applications where wind makes sense? I suspect there are. We just wanted to get rid of the subsidies and get rid of the tilted playing field. But
then the exchange got sharp. McBride asked if the United States should be selling wind turbines to other countries. Wright said he is for growing American industry. He noted that wind is 1.5% of global energy. The nations that are big in wind have the most expensive electricity on the planet. McBride said the administration is undermining America's capacity to compete with China. They have cut hundreds of clean energy projects and eliminated incentives. She asked why they are letting China win.
Unfortunately, your actions, the actions of this administration, are undermining our capacity to compete with China in this marketplace. You've not only cut hundreds of clean energy projects, you've also eliminated the very incentives that help to spur this industry here in the United States that would allow us to compete with China. So why are you letting China win in this global economic battle?
Wright said 34 years of subsidies for wind were not enough. If an industry cannot compete without subsidies after 34 years, it does not work. McBride said the fossil fuel industry gets subsidies too. Wright asked her to name them. She said there are tax incentives and breaks. Wright pressed her to tell him what they are. She could not name one. The time expired. McBride said Wright is playing winners and losers. He is picking winners and losers. She yielded back. Let's watch.
I'd like to recognize Representative McBride of Delaware.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to you and Ranking Member Lofgren for holding this hearing, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for joining us. In the last few months, President Trump has given the world a masterclass on what energy insecurity looks like. President Trump's war in Iran has shown us that energy security cannot mean dependence on a single fuel source. It cannot mean dependence on one supply chain, and it cannot mean dependence on one region of the world. It seems every other country is learning that lesson except for us. In January, at the World Economic Forum, President Trump told the world that he hasn't, quote, been able to find any wind farms in China, and said China sells wind turbines to, quote, the stupid people that buy them, but they don't use them themselves. Secretary Wright, have you or anyone in your department been able to find any wind turbines in China?
We haven't looked.
You haven't looked. Well, it seems like the president apparently has explored all 3.6 million square miles of China and apparently declared at Davos that China isn't using any wind turbines. As I mentioned, the president said that stupid people buy them. You've articulated increasing the energy supply here in the United States and our energy exports. I assume that includes wind from your perspective, yes?
For all energy sources that are affordable, reliable, and secure. To me, it's just about math. I don't have a technology I love and a technology I hate. It's just about the math.
So does that include wind?
Its contribution to date so far has not been so good, but are there going to be areas or applications where wind makes sense? I suspect there are. We just wanted to get rid of the subsidies and get rid of the tilted playing field. But energy sources that can compete economically and can better human lives, I'm for all those.
So I'll take that as you believe that wind should be part of our portfolio.
Again, it's about the we've only seen wind where it was subsidized and it was mandated. So we've forced a lot of wind power to be built in the United States. Its net impact has been upward on electricity prices because it's not dispatchable. It's just when you get a cold front that sits there, the wind doesn't blow. If you're not there at peak demand, you don't matter to our electricity grid.
So on that note then, do you believe that the United States should not be playing in the global renewable marketplace when it comes to wind then? China is. Other countries seem to be buying. Whether you think or the president thinks those countries are stupid, they're buying from China. Do you think we should be selling wind turbines to other countries too, producing them here and selling them to other countries?
I'm for growing American industry and businesses, but you're talking a lot about wind. Let's just give the numbers real quick. Wind is 1.5% of global energy. And if you look at the nations that have been big in wind, they lead the world in the most expensive electricity prices, which is all the nations of Northwest Europe. They're the wind powerhouses. They have the most expensive electricity on the planet.
Well, the president himself complained about other countries buying wind from China. He called them stupid, but he admitted they are buying wind from China. So do you think we should cede this marketplace to China?
I don't believe we should cede any marketplaces to China.
Okay, well, unfortunately, your actions, the actions of this administration, are undermining our capacity to compete with China in this marketplace. You've not only cut hundreds of clean energy projects, you've also eliminated the very incentives that help to spur this industry here in the United States that would allow us to compete with China. So why are you letting China win in this global economic battle?
She said remove the incentives. So 34 years of subsidy for wind weren't enough to get an infant industry off its feet and going? The 34 years, to me, if you can't compete without subsidies after 34 years, your industry doesn't work.
Let's be clear. You're not opposed to subsidies for energy producers. You're just opposed to subsidies for renewable energy producers because the fossil fuel industry gets a ton of money from our government.
It does not. Please tell me what those subsidies are. I'm not aware of them.
They are getting a ton of investments. They're getting a ton of tax incentives. They're getting a ton of breaks. They are getting a windfall. The executives are getting a windfall while the American people pay the price right now with the increase in gas prices. There are a ton of policies. There is a ton of funding. There is a ton of tax incentives that are going to fossil fuel companies. And so you are fine.
It's actually not true.
You are fine. That is
Tell me what they are.
True.
Tell me what they are.
There are absolutely
What
true.
are they?
You are the one answering questions here. You know for a fact that there are tax incentives that are going to fossil fuel companies. You know for a fact that that industry has been subsidized in the past and today by this government, by the actions of our government. You just don't want the renewable energy industry to get the same opportunities as the fossil fuel industry. You're playing winners and losers, and you're picking winners and losers.
Time's expired.
Thank you.
Time's expired.
This hearing is a masterclass in how to expose the contradictions in an administration's energy policy. Representative Sarah McBride came with a simple question that revealed the absurdity of the president's claim about China. The president said he could not find any wind farms in China. He called countries that buy wind turbines stupid. He made this declaration at the World Economic Forum in front of the world's business and political leaders. He apparently explored all 3.6 million square miles of China to make that claim. His own Energy Secretary admitted that his department has not looked. The exchange moved to the substance of energy policy. Wright said he does not love or hate any technology. It is just about math. McBride asked if that includes wind. Wright said its contribution to date has not been so good, but there may be areas where it makes sense. He said they want to get rid of subsidies and get rid of the tilted playing field. He noted that wind is 1.5% of global energy. The nations that have been big in wind have the most expensive electricity on the planet. He cited the nations of Northwest Europe as examples. McBride countered that the administration is undermining America's capacity to compete with China. They have cut hundreds of clean energy projects. They have eliminated incentives. She asked why they are letting China win. Wright said 34 years of subsidies for wind were not enough. If an industry cannot compete without subsidies after 34 years, it does not work. Then the exchange got sharp. McBride said Wright is not opposed to subsidies for energy producers. He is just opposed to subsidies for renewable energy producers. She said the fossil fuel industry gets a ton of money from the government. Wright asked her to name the subsidies. He said he is not aware of them. McBride said they are getting investments, tax incentives, breaks, windfalls. Wright pressed her. Tell me what they are. Tell me what they are. She could not name one. The time expired. That is the heart of the exchange. McBride accused Wright of playing winners and losers. He is picking winners and losers, but she could not point to a single fossil fuel subsidy. Wright, on the other hand, had numbers. Wind is 1.5% of global energy. 34 years of subsidies. The wind powerhouses have the most expensive electricity. He was not picking winners and losers. He was following the math. McBride's argument was based on an assumption. The fossil fuel industry gets subsidies. The administration is eliminating clean energy incentives. Therefore, the administration is letting China win. But she could not name the subsidies. She could not provide the numbers. She could not demonstrate that the fossil fuel industry gets more subsidies than renewable energy. She made the accusation. She could not back it up. Wright's argument was based on data. Wind is a small part of global energy. It is not dispatchable. It requires mandates and subsidies to be built. Its net impact has been upward on electricity prices. 34 years of subsidies should have been enough. If the industry cannot compete without subsidies after 34 years, it does not work. That is not an ideological argument. That is a mathematical argument. The contrast is the point. McBride sees a world where the administration is ceding the clean energy market to China. Wright sees a world where the renewable energy industry has been propped up by subsidies for decades and still cannot compete. They are looking at the same numbers. They are drawing different conclusions. That is not a failure of facts. That is a failure of consensus. One side believes in subsidies for favored industries. The other side believes in letting the market decide. McBride's closing accusation was the most important part of the exchange. She said Wright is playing winners and losers. He is picking winners and losers. She is right. Every government policy picks winners and losers. The question is which winners and which losers. Wright is picking winners based on math. McBride is picking winners based on policy goals. Neither is neutral. The difference is that Wright admits it. He said he is for energy sources that can compete economically. McBride wants the government to pick clean energy. Both are legitimate positions, but one is honest about it. The other pretends it is not. The hearing ended with the time expired. McBride did not get to name a single fossil fuel subsidy. Wright did not have to concede that the administration is playing favorites. The record shows that McBride made an accusation she could not support. Wright made an argument based on data. That is not a victory for either side. But it is a lesson in how to argue about energy policy. Facts matter. Numbers matter. And accusations without evidence are just accusations.